October against the Jaguars. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur asked if there were any updates.
Starting the stream.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show, our first live show of 2025. In the one day we were off, again, a lot happened. So we have a lot of serious news to get to today, but we'll still have some fun stuff in hour two with What's Worse and more.
Indeed.
We got a little over 2 minutes until we begin the show.
Oh, 2 minutes. Very good.
Yeah, it's been tough. He's dealt with, this injury pretty much all year. Obviously, we wanted him to be back out there, but, injuries are part of the game, so we understand that. We know that he's been working, or he was working to, try to get back, but it's like every time he was trying to, he would tweak it again. So it's a part of the game.
NBA, the Bucks in action tonight in Milwaukee. They host the Brooklyn Nets with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
More clouds than sunshine today, with high temperatures reaching the mid-20s. But with winds becoming feisty out of the northwest, it's creating wind chills.
Trying to get my camera
feeling
straight.
sub-zero by tomorrow morning. We do have a bright and beautiful
You're just
day
not the
on
best
tap,
at making things
but
straight,
highs
that's all.
I know, that's
feeling
very
more
true.
like the single
Very true.
digits. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 24 degrees.
Matt Nair on air. This shouldn't be a thing.
Hot Dr. Pepper is the hottest holiday drink, but is it any good?
Jane, I'd like to answer that question.
Yes.
No. Have you ever had a hot soda in your life?
Yes, they're terrible. You can also do apparently 80% eggnog and 20% Dr. Pepper.
Get out of my country.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays at 11 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the whoops. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship
just the normal
is
music?
about heart.
Yeah, just
Heart and
to start.
brain.
Yeah.
Who's
We'll do
with
that.
me?
Good thing is, he knows when
Sounds
he's buzzed.
good.
And
We
my
got about
brain
30
is
seconds.
saying,
All right,
"It's
everybody.
time to go home.
Welcome to
Somebody call me a
2025.
ride."
Love that guy.
Me too.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh, along with our outstanding producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 now, past the hour of 12 noon on this Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Great day to be in Wisconsin tonight. Welcome in, everybody. Glad to be along with you. Hope you enjoyed our special New Year's Day show. Many thanks to my sister, Heather, for being on the show yesterday. Mr. Zommers had a lot of fun kind of looking at some of the New Year's games. Watched several. Mr. Zommers, welcome into 2025. Did you watch the Rose Bowl parade or the Rose Parade, any of the games yesterday? Or just kind of chilled out after your party on New Year's Eve?
I did not watch the Rose Parade, but I watched some of the games. I watched the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl or whatever the heck, and I think the Fiesta Bowl. Whichever one of the games went on for like 4.5 hours is the one that I watched.
The big double overtime game last night.
That was the one that I watched.
Arizona State.
And then
Texas.
after that, I was like, okay, I'm footballed out.
Well, I watched it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Of course, the Sugar Bowl was delayed. It'll begin at 3 o'clock Central Time this afternoon on ESPN after that deadly terrorist attack yesterday in the early morning hours of 2025 in New Orleans. In the most, big celebrations going on down in Bourbon Street. So far, 15 people are now confirmed dead. We're going to talk about that and use this as an opportunity to demonstrate a little bit what we talked about, ironically, earlier this week, where we get our information from, what the story was in the early moments of this tragedy from some news sources versus what it turned out to be the truth and reality. and how the spin gets put on this. We'll break that down for you a little bit as well. Of course, in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, January 3rd, there is an election for House Speaker. Mike Johnson can essentially lose 2 votes, maybe 1, depending upon who shows up to vote. And that could affect the certification of on January 6th of the presidential election. Will that make a difference on getting Mike Johnson or anyone elected speaker? We'll break that down for you. The Brewers, by the way, have a brand new TV contract. Outbreak of norovirus. Going to tell you how to try to stay safe. Wash your hands in hour number 2. A little bit of what's worse, centering around the holidays. Your phone calls as well at 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. But at 9 minutes past the hour of 12 noon, we have some breaking news, 2 major stories across the state of Wisconsin, and want to get that to you right now. According to Channel 3000, the CBS News affiliate here in Madison, a kindergartner died this morning after an accident involving a Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex, involving a bus at Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex. In a letter to families, Hamilton School District Superintendent Paul Milkey said the 4K student was at SSI to get on a shuttle bus bound for Willow Springs Learning Center. The district would not share further information on the tragedy out of respect for the child's family. Quote, "We understand tragedy is sure to raise many emotions, concerns, and questions for our entire school community, especially our students," Milkey said. "Our student services team immediately began working with students and staff at several buildings this morning and will continue to provide support during this difficult time." In a post on Facebook, the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department said it was investigating a bus accident at Silver Springs Intermediate School and would provide further information later today. Sheriff's officials said there was no active threat to the school or the surrounding area. Again, very important news, particularly for our listeners on WAUK and Waukesha County. A kindergartner died this morning after an accident involving a bus at Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex. We will update you, of course, through Civic Media News should more information become available. Our thoughts, our prayers certainly go out to the Waukesha County area and the Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex, to all those involved. The other story breaking about a half an hour ago here in Madison, the Wisconsin Elections Commission this morning has voted to investigate the Madison City Clerk's office after 193 unprocessed absentee ballots were found during post-election audit processes. The commission, made up of 6 members appointed by both Democrats and Republicans, argued a lack of transparency from the Madison clerk required the commission to dig into the process. Quote, "This was such a serious oversight," unquote, Commission Chair Ann Jacobs, a Democratic appointee, said during the meeting. Jacobs said she would send formal guidance to commission staff by the end of today, stressing the urgency to finalize an investigation quickly. Candidates for the next spring election have already begun circulating nomination papers, and the deadline for ballot access is this coming Tuesday. Quote, "I don't see this as punishment," unquote, said Commissioner Marge Boltzmann, a Republican appointee. Quote, "We need to investigate this so it doesn't happen again in the future," unquote. Madison City Clerk's officials first discovered the problem November 12th when staff found a sealed courier bag with 68 uncounted absentee ballots. That number rose when city staff found another bag on December 3rd with 125 more uncounted ballots. City staff alerted the WEC weeks later on December 13th. The WEC also briefly heard a proposal by another Republican appointee to the commission, Bob Spindell, to launch a similar investigation into Milwaukee's election process, but it was rejected for procedural reasons. That also coming to us from Channel 3000, WISC, the affiliate here, CBS affiliate in Madison. Again, Wisconsin Elections Commission votes this morning to investigate Madison's uncounted ballots. Couple of things from this story. Number one, I'm all for this, by the way. I think that it should be investigated. If there was an honest mistake made, that should be pointed out. It doesn't appear to be anything nefarious or intentional, but good to have a legit investigation to make sure that's not the case. Number two, at the end of this, Bob Spindell, who, of course, is one of the fake electors from 2020, he wants to investigate Milwaukee's election process as well, but to both the Democratic and other Republican appointees to the WEC, they rejected that for procedural reasons. Pretty rich coming from Bob Spindell to try to investigate Milwaukee's election process. But the serious point to this, and again, to my knowledge, the 193 unprocessed ballots here in Madison would not have made a difference in terms of an outcome of any of the elections, either local or statewide. But good to have it on the ballot or good to have that investigation and make sure that everything is kosher, so to speak. Mr. Zabers?
Yes, the Dane County Clerk's Office also did confirm that it would not have had any impact on results of any elections.
Well, there you go. So very good. So nothing would have been, even if all those missing ballot or uncounted ballots would have been gone for one candidate or another, wouldn't have made an election or a difference. But good to have it investigated. I'm all for it. I'm glad that the Democratic members joined with Republicans on the Wisconsin Elections Commission to vote to investigate and get to the bottom of it and get answers. That's the only way to keep confidence in our election process.
I certainly agree.
14 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon. As we said, big news throughout the day. Yesterday was monitoring it all day long, and it's certainly a tragedy. Going to get into this a little bit more here as the morning unfolds. I think most of us now know, this is from the Associated Press, kind of the update right now on what has gone on in the early morning hours around 3:15 on New Year's Day down in New Orleans. Here are the facts at this hour. A driver behind the wheel of a pickup truck raced into a crowd of New Orleans revelers on Bourbon Street early on New Year's Day. The death toll is now at 15 in what the FBI investigators are calling an act of terrorism. After the vehicle stopped, the driver emerged from the truck and opened fire on responding officers, according to New Orleans police. Here is the latest on the attacker. What we know so far, the driver was killed in a firefight with police following the attack around 3:15 a.m. on Wednesday. He was identified as 42-year-old Samsud Dim Jabbar. The vehicle was rented. The vehicle that he owned, a pickup truck, used the attack, rented via a service called Turo. I never heard of it before. Turo, apparently an app that connects drivers with vehicle owners. The company confirmed they are partnering with the FBI in the investigation. And as we said at the top of the show, the Sugar Bowl has been postponed. The attack prompted the postponement of college football playoffs quarterfinal game at the nearby Superdome last night. And it will be moved until today. The Sugar Bowl was initially scheduled for last evening. It's going to be played around 3 o'clock kickoff on ESPN today. Couple of things of note. The truck used was a Ford Lightning. It was an electric vehicle. Why is that important? According to investigators, a couple of reasons. One, as most of us know who have been around electric vehicles, generally it's harder to hear them. That's why many electric vehicles kind of have this hum or whatever that kind of amplifies from them, because there's, it's electric. There's no engine to rev up necessarily. So people couldn't hear the vehicle as well coming down the street. Number two, it has really quick pickup. In other words, when you hit the accelerator, EVs will tend to accelerate quicker at a quicker rate than a gasoline-powered engine. And if you watch the video from this, which has now been released, what happened was, because they made a lot of it's been made a lot of by a lot of people, that I'll call them just barriers, because that's what most common people call them, either cement or metal or whatever, all on the roads, they were being replaced in preparation for the Super Bowl in New Orleans next month. So there were police cars at the start of the street to block off someone from doing this. What they didn't do is put some sort of blockade on the attached sidewalk. And it's not clear at this point. It doesn't sound like, even if the barriers were in place, the proper barriers, there weren't going to be any on the sidewalk, according to what I've seen. So what this guy did is he got up to the police car and then just hit the accelerator and went up onto the sidewalk right around the police car and then just wreaked havoc right down the street. Going to tell you how this was reported and why it's important. Come on back. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Tuesday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Verlo Mattress is more than just another mattress store. They're building better sleep for Dane County with handcrafted mattresses made to order right in Madison. And since they live there too, they make every dollar spent matter, actively partnering to benefit the community. You may even see Maddie the mattress mascot bouncing with joy around town. In this new year, get what you deserve. A mattress that supports your dreams. American made, locally crafted.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. In November 2022, Michigan voters passed a constitutional amendment enshrining voting protections and expanding ballot access. After the legislature implemented the voters' directive, GOP legislators sued, claiming that only the legislature could make such changes. Proposition 2 mandated 9 days of early voting, protections for voters and election workers from harassment, and a tracking system for absentee ballots. It allowed for the funding of secure drop boxes and the counting of military and overseas ballots if postmarked by Election Day, and several other reforms. Conjuring the independent state legislature theory, which argues that the U.S. Constitution allows only legislatures to control election law, 11 Michigan GOP legislators sued. On December 20th, the federal Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the lower court's denial of the Michigan legislators' claim. But importantly, it did so saying that while the individual legislators had no standing to bring the case, a full legislature could, leaving the door open a crack. The U.S. Supreme Court mostly dismissed the theory in 2023's Moore v. Harper case, but Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, and
doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 now past the hour of 12 noon on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Many people going back to work, back to school today. Some folks still have off today and tomorrow, but many of us heading back to work. Always a little tougher when the holiday comes in the middle of the week. We'll talk about that in hour number 2 with what's worse. Right now, though, going through news, a very busy New Year's Day news day, talking about the tragedy, the terrorist attack in New Orleans in the early morning hours yesterday, giving you the facts, first of all, and then going to see how this was covered by some folks, and also what the spin on this is and why it's important moving into 2025. Also, a bit later, going to take a look at the speaker's race for the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. So the guy that perpetrated this, the alleged suspect, you have to call him that at this point, 42-year-old Samsud Din Jabbar. Here's the facts. The guy was born in Texas. He is an American citizen. Served in the United States Army, was honorably discharged by all reports, according to many news sources and the Department of Defense. Then went into the reserves, tried to get into, or at least initially tried to then get into the Navy, but never actually went through the proper channels, was discharged within a couple of weeks. But spent years and was deployed as an American soldier, veteran. That is the fact. President Biden, speaking to the nation last night, said federal agents are investigating whether the truck attack in New Orleans was linked to an explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck outside President-elect Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel, which occurred yesterday afternoon. A lot of apprehension. That's why it's important to kind of let these things play out, let the facts become known. So the attack in New Orleans happened about 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, on New Year's Day. And then somewhere in the late morning hours, a truck explodes, a Tesla Cybertruck, they call it, right outside the front doors of the Las Vegas hotel that's owned by Donald Trump. Biden said, quote, "There's nothing to report on that score at this time," unquote. The truck appeared to be carrying fireworks when it caught fire and exploded Wednesday. One person died and several others were injured. It appears that the driver of that truck was an active duty United States service member, also an American citizen. Joe Biden said that the New Orleans attacker had posted video on social media indicating he was inspired by the Islamic State group, ISIS. Biden said the man had expressed, quote, "a desire to kill," unquote. He said the investigation remains fluid. The president said, quote, "I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you," unquote. So this is, as a person that drives a white truck, right? It always seems to be a white vehicle. And indeed, this is a white Ford electric vehicle. And on the back was a ISIS flag. Apparently, from early reporting, this guy, an American citizen, a soldier, a veteran who had deployed to Afghanistan, had recently, in recent months, been radicalized by the extreme Islamic groups. Had cut his hair, changed his looks, his appearance, his demeanor. And I'm watching the press conference yesterday. Watched a lot of these. Been kind of a quasi part of a couple of these, not on the huge national scale, but on the state scale. By all accounts, the press conference yesterday in New Orleans was an abject failure. Because normally at these things, you always have kind of one person or agency in charge, and it's very regimented. And people say they're on the same page. And part of the problem with the press conference in New Orleans yesterday is you had this goofball, the U.S. Senator Kennedy, Republican that represents Louisiana. He insists on getting up there and starts cracking partisan jokes against the media, a la Trump. Didn't do anybody any good. And they were contradicting, whether it was the local people or the federal people or the politicians, they were contradicting each other. A lot of confusion. Early on, what they insinuated was that this guy was not working alone. They've since raided his house or where he came from in Houston, talked to other people, and now just this morning they held another press conference, the FBI, saying that it appears, keyword appears, at this moment, they feel that this individual acted alone. And so they're allowing the Sugar Bowl to go on this afternoon at 3 o'clock. They plan to open up Bourbon Street around 2:30. Which is, as cold as it might seem, important. Because you think about, and again, part of terror, the reason there are terrorists is to create terror. I know that sounds like a pretty obvious thing to say, right? But it's meant to change our habits, change how we do things, change how we think. Think about all the people from Georgia and Notre Dame who flew into New Orleans, planned on going to the game last night, and had plane reservations to leave today. I mean, these tickets are not cheap, at least a couple $100 a pop. And now some of these people are probably just going to have to get in the plane and go home and never see the game. I know that's secondary to the loss of life. I totally get that. But I'm just saying the domino effect here. If people are going to stay, they got to redo their plane fares. They got to see if there's hotels available. We have all these restaurants and hotels that brought in all kinds of food and drink for this game. Much of it perishable. Again, that is far secondary to the loss of life, 100%. But I'm just saying these are all things that have to be taken into consideration with these things. It is a terrorist act. It is meant to cause terrorism. It is meant to disrupt life. But for this guy Kennedy, the senator down there, to be using this terrible moment of tragedy to somehow score political points was just embarrassing. What was even more embarrassing, perhaps, and this is the important part we're going to get to here after the break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to walk through this. That as this unfolded, Fox News reported that this was a foreigner, blamed it on open borders. You see what's going on? For folks that only get their news from Fox News, they think this is a quote-unquote illegal who came across the border and it's Joe Biden's fault. We'll tell you why it's not and why facts matter. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go anywhere. Your phone calls as well. 855-752-4842 on a Tuesday, January 2nd.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
Happy New Year! I'm Stephanie Hoff for the Midwest Farm Report, along with you on the second day of 2025. The past year saw strong export activity for dairy products, supporting dairy markets despite challenges like heat stress and the bird flu. Mike North joins us. He's the principal of risk management with Everegg. He says looking forward, watching those international markets is going to be important, particularly Mexico.
Mexico, by far and away, is our largest buyer of dairy products. And as we bring in this new administration, some of the talk around tariff and specifically pointed towards the issues in Mexico around the border and some of the nearshoring issues that we're going to chase after, that tariff might be used to ultimately try to gain some leverage in the conversation over those two concerns.
Mike North, along with us from Everegg, he says as cheese production expands here in the U.S., international buys are going to be critical to balance supply and demand in 2025. Stick around. We'll take a look at our midday commodity prices next.
Can you predict the future? I can't. That's why when I'm planting soybeans, I treat with Heads Up seed treatment. With more than 15 years of research, Heads Up offers proven protection against both white mold and sudden death syndrome. So no matter what the year throws at you, you've already taken that first step to be prepared. Don't let your beans suffer from disease when they're just starting to look their best. Tell your seed dealer you need Heads Up seed treatment. Learn more at headsupst.com.
There goes Pam Yankee across Wisconsin in her Suburban truck. Thanks to Equity Livestock Cooperative, marketing your livestock, financing your operation, and supporting the livestock community since 1922. And to Cleary Building Corp. Cleary Building Corp. Built with pride before the shamrock is applied. Explore clearybuilding.com today. Keep up with Pam at MidwestFarmReport.com and on Facebook and Instagram.
After taking a break for New Year's Day, markets opened up this morning at 8:30. Here's what's happening to kick off a new year. Cash corn is up a half a cent at $4.59 a bushel. December new crop corn is up 2.5 cents at $4.46 1/4. Cash soybeans are up 3 3/4 cents, trading at $10.02 a bushel. And November new crop beans are up 6.5 cents at $10.31 3/4. Cash wheat is down 3 3/4 cents at $5.47 3/4. And July new crop wheat is 2 3/4 cents lower at $5.66 3/4. Class 3 milk contracts are seeing a lift today. The January contract is up 14 cents at $20.45 a hundredweight. The February contract is also up 14 cents at $20.52 a hundredweight. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
More clouds than sunshine today, with high temperatures reaching the mid-20s. But with winds becoming feisty out of the northwest, it's creating wind chills. And feeling sub-zero by tomorrow morning. We do have a bright and beautiful day on tap, but with highs in the teens, it'll be feeling more like the single digits. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 24 degrees.
The John and Gordy Show.
Well, Bob Woodward, ever since All the President's Men, along with Carl Bernstein, they basically blew the cover off of the Watergate scandal.
That's right, with Deep Throat.
And that's a great movie, by the way.
Deep Throat? I saw that.
No, I meant All the President's Men, but thank you for that. All right.
Linda Lovelace was a great performer.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Matt and Air on air. This shouldn't be a thing.
Hot Dr. Pepper is the hottest holiday drink, but is it any good?
Jane, I'd like to answer that question.
Yes.
No. Have you ever had a hot soda in your life?
Yes.
Wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour of 12 noon on this first live show of 2025 here at the Allbaugh Show on this Thursday, January 2nd. Zommers on the board. Taking your phone calls, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Going to get to in a bit here. This election coming up tomorrow in D.C., the House Speaker, is Mike Johnson in trouble, and how could it affect the certification on January 6th of President-elect Donald Trump? Also, have you heard of this, Sommers? Norovirus.
Yep, I know some people who got it.
Really?
Yeah.
Knock on wood. So far, not me. But we're later on in the show talk about norovirus, how to help prevent the spread of it. And if you have it, please stay home because I hear it's apparently highly contagious.
Oh, very contagious.
Yeah. So talking about that in hour two as well. Our What's Worse for the day involving midweek holidays. Going to want to stay tuned for that. But right now, talking about the top serious news stories of the day. Again, according to Channel 3000 here in Madison, a kindergartner has died after an accident involving a school bus in Waukesha County. A kindergartner died this morning after an accident involving a bus at Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex. In a letter to families, Hamilton School District Superintendent Paul Milkey said the 4K student was at SSI to get on a shuttle bus bound for Willow Springs Learning Center. The district would not share further information on the tragedy out of respect to the child's family. And here in Madison, again, according to Channel 3000, the Wisconsin Election Commission voted this morning to investigate the Madison City Clerk's office after 193 unprocessed absentee ballots were found during a post-election audit process. The commission, made up of 6 members appointed by both Democrats and Republicans, argued a lack of transparency from the Madison clerk required the commission to dig into the process. Important to note, as Zommers did in hour one, that according to the Dane County officials, there would have been no difference if all 193 unprocessed ballots had gone to one individual. Would have been no difference in any outcomes, but still important to get to the bottom of this. Also talking about the top news stories yesterday, again, this terrorist attack with the president. FBI officials are calling a terrorist attack. Now in New Orleans, 15 now counted dead, including the shooter, the alleged shooter. At least 30 more injured and some in critical condition. And simultaneous, that's see right there. That's not accurate. Later on in the day, this attack in New Orleans happened about 3 o'clock in the morning after things started dying down a bit on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Later in the morning, out in Las Vegas, a Tesla truck exploded in front of the front doors of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. According to reporting now, updating, according to NBC, the driver of the Cybertruck that exploded outside Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas was a member of the elite Army Special Forces known as the Green Berets. Law enforcement today was seen outside of a home in Colorado Springs where Matthew Livelsberger apparently lived. Here's the statement from FBI in Denver. It says the Denver Field Division of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and the Colorado Springs Police Department are conducting law enforcement activities at a residential address in Colorado Springs. FBI Denver personnel and specialized teams will be on site for several hours. This activity is related to the explosion in Las Vegas on Wednesday. Due to an ongoing nature of the investigation, no further information will be provided out of the Denver FBI. What they're saying now, and again, this is in the early stages, they don't believe officials that this was in conjunction or coordinated with the attacker in New Orleans. This morning, FBI officials held an updated press conference saying despite early reports, including from that kind of debacle of a press conference in New Orleans yesterday, it appears this guy in New Orleans, another American citizen, acted alone, but was radicalized by the extreme Islamic group ISIS. So those are the facts. Now, here's what's interesting and also disappointing. And we talked about this a little bit earlier this week on the show. As we move now into 2025 and we're under 20 days, whatever it is, 17 days or so away from Donald Trump being sworn in for his second term of president, I think it's critical for what we're doing on this show to bring you facts, confirmed information, and then juxtapose that to help us understand a little bit of what happened back in November at the election. Because if you were watching one news source, you get a very different picture than what I just told you over the last 20 minutes or so. According to CNN, and this kind of breaks it down, and I'll interject with my analysis, says an erroneous early Fox News report about New Orleans terror attack is warping the political dialogue in the aftermath of the deadly rampage. The false report from Fox, which was attributed to anonymous sources, confused the public. And the article says, and evidently President-elect Donald Trump, too. I don't think he was confused. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. The article says this misinformation is still circulating more than 24 hours later, serving as a cautionary tale about the news ecosystem as the new year begins. During the 10 a.m. hour yesterday, Fox reported that the New Orleans suspect's truck crossed the U.S. border in Eagle Pass, Texas, quote unquote, 2 days ago. Some of the right-wing network's coverage explicitly said the suspect drove across the border, leaving viewers with the impression that a foreigner might be responsible for the deadly carnage. In fact, as we said, the New Orleans attack suspect was a United States citizen born here and an Army veteran. But those facts were not publicly established at the time Fox aired the faulty information. 8 minutes after the first Fox segment that mentioned the border, President-elect Donald Trump issued a statement about quote-unquote criminals coming in, unquote, from other countries. While Trump did not mention Fox directly, he is known to be an avid consumer of the cable network and has tapped several of his personalities for his incoming cabinet. Some of Trump's family members and political allies also immediately connected the attack to quote-unquote illegal immigration as cited by Fox. Here's what Don Jr. wrote, quote, Biden's parting gift to America, migrant terrorists, unquote. Sharing the Fox claim on X, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican in Congress, exclaimed, quote, shut the border down, unquote. Now, Fox tried to walk back the incorrect report about an hour and a half later. The network said the truck used in the attack was actually in Eagle Pass nearly 2 months ago, not 2 days ago. More importantly, the truck was being driven by someone else at the time. It was available on the car rental app Turo. So the details about the border were completely irrelevant. As we said at the top of the show, this app Turo, who I've not heard of before this and never used, apparently, and this might be part, may keyword may be part of the terrorist thinking, alleged terrorists, that unlike when you go to Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they take all your, everything but a DNA sample, basically. So if you cause any damage, it's easy to know who you are and who rented that vehicle. Apparently, Turo is kind of sort of like an Airbnb, where, hey, this is the name I'm giving you. I give you a credit card, never meet you, and I pick up the thing, and that's it. A lot less detailed order to get. So someone else had this truck in Texas, allegedly, completely unrelated to what happened yesterday. But Fox News conveniently left that out. According back to this article on CNN, but the damage was already done. References to Eagle Pass continued to spread across social media. Fox continued to stream a clip on its website of the incorrect information. Quote, some Republicans continued to beat the border drum well after Fox News retracted its initial report, unquote, according to the Daily Beast's Josh Falio. Ironically, Trump's original statement used the New Orleans attack to say that he was right and the quote-unquote fake news media was wrong about the threat posed by illegal immigration. If he had waited a couple of hours to react, he would have learned that the suspect, as we said, was indeed a U.S. citizen. A Fox News spokesperson did not respond to a request for comment about the misreporting. And again, unfortunately, key word and stress on unfortunately, this is a good opportunity in terms of having a real life example. And look, it's fair for listeners to this program or other times. And this is one of my goals for 2025. Be more intentional. Make sure I'm giving you facts. Make sure I'm giving you examples of what I'm talking about. So it's one thing for me to say, well, Donald Trump always exaggerates, or, Fox News are a bunch of liars. It's better for me to do what I just did. Give you factual information of what really happened and a clear example of what Donald Trump and the right-wing media did. And now we start to really get down, as Judge Weitzman says, where the chickens can get at it. Look at this one example. Now, amplify that across months of the 2024 election. And I truly believe that may have been the largest reason that Donald Trump got reelected. Is you have otherwise rational and decent people in our communities, our friends and our neighbors, who we go to church with, we play golf with, we sit next to in church pews. And they go home and they watch a very specific form of media, Fox News being the big one. And they trust, well, it can't be on TV. They can't say it unless it's true. Because a lot of those folks still live in the Walter Cronkite era in their mind in terms of, well, media like that's not going to lie. And so they believe it to be the truth. And you get a steady diet of that for weeks and months, and then you go into the voting booth and you vote according to what you believe to be the truth. And that's why I'm taking it up as a critical mission for our show in 2025 to really lean into what we say every day, pursuing truth wherever it may lead. And just like the other story there in Madison, look, I mean, if it's I'm a former Republican who's not a card-carrying member of any organization, any political organization right now. So I don't care whether it embarrasses Democrats or Republicans. I just want the truth out there because you deserve that. We deserve that. And I believe that if we're given the truth, as Lincoln said, we'll make good choices. So I think it's a good example, a very fortunate, sad, tragic example, but a good example of how we can see what's true and what's not true. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. And as we say, we're going to have some fun along the way as well. In hour 2, we'll ask the question, what's worse? Midweek holidays or... Are you a fan of midweek holidays, Summers?
I mean, I'll take it over not having it.
It kind of messes up the equilibrium a little bit for me.
Very much so, yes.
But we'll talk about that a little bit when we come back. Also, want to get this in on the other side. Big election. No, we're not involved in it directly. Big election tomorrow in Washington, D.C. for House Speaker. Mike Johnson's allies warning that a speakership battle could delay Donald Trump's victory celebration. What? It could happen. I mean, these days you never know. We'll come back, explain, take your phone calls as well. 855-752-4842 is the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Thursday. See, midweek vacation.
Midweek holidays.
We're on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. As 2024 comes to a close, we're taking our annual look back at the year that was, recapping our most read, most listened to, and most impactful stories of the year. If you're new to learning about the recombobulation area, this would be a great place to start to see what we're all about. This year, we covered the RNC in Milwaukee and the DNC in Chicago and broke stories that made national news along the way. We wrote about the fight for fair maps and covered elections in the state legislature like no one else. I wrote opinion columns and feature stories and conducted extended sit-down interviews like one with Senator Tammy Baldwin. I hosted podcasts and radio shows and, of course, joined the Civic Media Network, where you've heard me all over the airwaves for the last few months. This last year was discombobulating at times, but we did our best to make sense of it all, and we've got a whole lot more recombobulation in store for the year ahead in 2025.
Find all of Dan's work at the recombobulation area and on our website at civicmedia.us.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute. On my YouTube channel, I recently talked to Amanda Clayman, a financial therapist and an all-around excellent person. We talked about how to reduce money anxiety, and her advice was really helpful. She said, unless we have a time to do money, we don't have a time to not do money. Meaning, if we set aside some time to think about and manage our money, it lets our brain stop worrying about money all the time. For example, I have a monthly money meeting with myself, which lowers my money anxiety and helps keep me on top of my finances. If you don't already, set and keep that money meeting with yourself. It'll help your wallet and your peace of mind. Remember what Amanda said.
Fun doing it. 9 minutes now past the hour. 9 minutes before the hour of one day off. I'm a little rusty. Sorry about that. Here on the Civic Media Radio Network. 9 minutes before the hour, 1 o'clock. Coming up in hour 2, as we said, what's worse? Taking your phone calls then. Taking phone calls now. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Talking before the break a little bit about why this matters. That Fox News reported erroneously that the attacker in New Orleans had come across the border. The truck that was used had come across the border, insinuated this was quote-unquote illegals doing this, which is completely false. And Donald Trump then amplified that and people around him. And Fox News barely did a retraction, but still continued to talk about and amplify the lies about what happened. Matt in Middleton, listening on WMDX, texted in on the Civic Media app. You can too. Saying, quote, as a fan of sci-fi and Orwell, I'm concerned that we're sleepwalking into the world of 1984, where truth is where you're told and fear is the state's objective. Truth is what you're told, and fear is the state's objective. Regardless of facts, There are a lot of people living in fear of the other and will be easily controlled. Truth must matter, unquote. Thank you, Matt in Middleton. Roger listening in Stevens Point, perhaps up on WFHR up there in Wisconsin Rapids. But Roger's in Point saying, there it is, listening to WFHR, the biggest hurdle is realizing that we need to hear, not what we want to hear.
Realizing what we need to hear.
Oh, very good. What we need to hear, and not what we want to hear. That's a great point, Roger. It's a great point. Jay in Fountain City listening to WLCX saying, I agree with Matt over there in beautiful La Crosse. I do too, Jay. Matt's got a great point. But so does Roger. And again, I know there's a lot of folks out there that say, and a lot of people ask this earnestly and say, look, how can we talk to folks that are voting for the other side, for MAGA candidates or for Trump? How can we convince them that that's not a good thing? And I think part of that is listening to them. Now, I never voted for MAGA because I left the Republican Party in 2011. But as one person who spent 30 years working for the Republican Party and left in 2011 before Trump and MAGA, the reason I left that party wasn't because anybody yelled at me, wasn't because they said, you're stupid, wasn't because they said, well, if you voted for Tommy Thompson and George W. Bush, you must be an extremist. You must be a racist. What's the matter with you? No. I heard some of those things. Honestly, that just makes me dig in harder, made me dig in harder. I left because I had a unique opportunity to see behind the curtain and see that not people I was working for, but a party I was supporting was doing things antithetical or in contrast or different than what I believed in. They were trying to suppress voting rights and pass legislation that took the right to vote away from someone. And that was a bridge too far for me. And I said, I can't. So it was the opportunity to be given facts and then ask myself, do those facts line up with what I believe? And when they didn't, I said, adios. So I think the most important thing we can do here is give people facts. That's why we're here. Going to continue with this on the other side, but I want to get to this because I said I would before the end of the hour. House Speaker Mike Johnson's allies are leaning into a key argument in a bid to avoid a chaotic floor fight over the gavel tomorrow. A vote against Johnson could delay the finalization of Donald Trump's White House win. A day before the speaker's election, Johnson, who has now been endorsed, by the way, by Trump to keep the top leadership post, is still racing to win over multiple Republican holdouts. A scenario that some Republicans privately fear could lead to another days-long protracted floor fight. At this time, there's a huge shadow over the race. Congress has never before tried to certify a presidential election without a House Speaker in place. Even senior Republicans say it's unclear what would happen if there is no speaker on January 6th, when Congress is scheduled to certify Trump's win, and they're not eager to find out, by the way. According to Don Bacon of Nebraska, a Republican said to oppose Johnson now weakens the GOP and strengthens Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader. It also puts at risk the Electoral College certification scheduled for January 6th. These guys serve as a fifth column, quote unquote, for the Dems, unquote, according to Don Bacon. The House can't conduct any official business without a speaker. Let me say that again. According to rules of the House cannot conduct official business without a speaker, which means there is no clear option to certify Trump's win without one. The message so far from Congress's own parliamentarians to the party leadership has been this: elect a speaker before January 6th. In other words, we don't want to go there. We are getting into uncharted territory. 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Matt, listening on WMDX in Middleton. Matt, you got about a minute. Let's see, less than a minute. Go ahead.
Hey, Todd, I just wanted to mention one way to kind of reach across to MAGA as a guy that's center-left is we have to admit that no side owns the truth. And people, MAGA has some good points as well. And to just say that everything's wrong with a particular ideology or side is kind of is erroneous in its own way. So
yeah,
we should admit that they're not wrong about the elite destroying the country and Wall Street and all these other issues. So.
Finding common ground. I love it, Matt. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. More calls on the other side. What's worse and more is the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, hard to believe the 1-year anniversary of Matnair on air. We're going to celebrate and wrap it all up with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. I hope you can join us.
Matnair on air. Weekday mornings at 11. The John and Gordy Show.
Well, Bob Woodward, ever since All the President's Men, along with Carl Bernstein, they basically blew the cover off of the Watergate scandal.
That's right, with the Deep Throat.
And that's a great movie, by the way.
Deep Throat? I saw that.
No, I meant All the President's Men, but thank you for that. All right.
Linda Lovelace was a great performer.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
This is a special report from ABC News New Orleans attack. I'm Dave Packer. He was 100% inspired by ISIS. That from the FBI investigating a man who drove a pickup truck down Bourbon Street, mowing down New Year's revelers early yesterday morning, killing 14, injuring dozens more before police shot him dead. And it's believed that U.S.-born military veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar acted alone. ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katursky.
He rented the truck on December 30th. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, he began driving from Texas to Louisiana, recording 5 videos in under an hour, beginning at about 1:30 in the morning. Those videos declared his support for ISIS, also his intention to kill members of his own family, but he thought that wouldn't send the kind of political message he intended to send. That's why he apparently chose Bourbon Street for his attack.
So far, the FBI has found no link to the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas the same day. This is ABC News.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. An update on the victims of the Abundant Life school shooting. The 2 victims who were in critical condition have now been upgraded to fair condition. In a statement released by UW Health, their families said they were grateful for the respect of their privacy and thanked American Family Children's Hospital. 4 others were shot. They were all released from the hospital the week of the shooting. A reminder that the Abundant Life Christian School Recovery Fund is still active. You can find a link to it on the United Way of Dane County's website. If you want to spend more time outside in 2024, there are changes to Wisconsin State Park Pass system. Here's Brittany Merlot.
Wisconsin state parks are now moving to a new 12-month admission pass. It's something that's been available in surrounding states and will now be here in Wisconsin. The new pass, available for purchase, will be valid for an entire year from the day you buy it, when previously all passes expired on December 31st, even if you bought it just a few months prior in October. With the new pass, let's say you purchase it in February. It'll be good until the following February. The pass will be marked to indicate the month and year in which it'll expire. I'm Brittany Merlot for Civic Media News.
And sauerkraut, anyone? While the discussion of hot or cold varies depending on if your traditions are German or Polish, just about everybody agrees sauerkraut is a popular topping for brats. One of the world's leading producers of sauerkraut is moving its headquarters to Wisconsin. Fermented Food Holdings Incorporated is investing $13 million to expand local production in Bear Creek and relocate their corporate headquarters to Madison. This will create 60 full-time jobs, with 41 of them being in the small town of Bear Creek. It will also bring production closer to local farmers. Wisconsin is the fourth largest producer of cabbage in the United States. This move will help the company directly source organic, fresh ingredients from our Wisconsin farmers. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
Bucks basketball tonight. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brooklyn Nets are back in Milwaukee, taking on the Bucks at Fiserv Forum. The two teams played just a week ago. The Nets won that one, 111-105. The NFL has named 3 Packers players to the Pro Bowl: safety Xavier McKinney, running back Josh Jacobs, and defensive end Rashawn Gary. Meanwhile, Jair Alexander's season is over. He had to have his right knee scoped Tuesday. After weeks of swelling and pain, he suffered a torn PCL back in October against the Jaguars. Head coach Matt LaFleur.
It's unfortunate. It is what it is. I feel for him. Obviously, he was trying to get his knee right. It wasn't getting right. And so, yeah, it's a tough deal for all of us.
Packers quarterback Jordan Love.
That's tough. Anytime, you talk about season-ending injuries, guys not being able to come back, it's tough. Going to be praying for John, and hopefully he can recover. But, it's tough. I feel for the guy, definitely wants to be out there. So it's tough.
That's Jordan Love with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
More clouds than sunshine today, with high temperatures reaching the mid-20s. But with winds becoming feisty out of the northwest, it's creating wind chills. And feeling sub-zero by tomorrow morning. We do have a bright and beautiful day on tap, but with highs in the teens, it'll be feeling more like the single digits. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 26 degrees at our studios.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of
26
if,
degrees in our
but
studio.
when. Don't find
Do they
yourself
record?
saying,
They record every number that automatically puts it in.
I'm pretty sure.
It's 26 in our studio. It's 27 in our studio. It's 20. It must take them a long time.
Oh, I bet.
Where do they stop? And then what if it got hotter than that? Like, what if they
And
stop
colder.
at
What,
110?
do they
Let's
stop at
prepare so
negative
we all
10?
have a
Do they
better
stop at
story
negative
to tell.
40?
Get started at ready.gov/older
These are the
adults.
pressing
Brought to you
questions
by
we ask
FEMA
at
the Ad
Civic Media.
Council.
We'll have to ask Brittany
The
Merlot.
John and Gordy Show.
Well, Bob Woodward, ever since all the President's Men, along with Carl Bernstein.
Or do they just have her say a few numbers and train an AI voice to say all of them? No, I don't think they do that, but I think in the future they might.
Now, see, that might be a good idea for AI. You can't mess that up, right? It's 125. It's 1,015.
All right, 30 seconds.
It's 30 seconds.
Weekday morning, 6 till 8 on 90.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our outstanding producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program here on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Sun coming out in parts of the state. Going to get chilly, those hours. Your kind of weather. You're going to be absolutely fantastically happy by the end of the week when the rest of us are shivering.
Well, I won't be standing outside in shorts, at least.
No, you will not. Cool down. Big Canadian system coming down. Quite frankly, kind of just seasonable weather. We've been so spoiled with global warming and all that. Now normal January weather seems, oh my gosh, it's terribly cold. It's just normal January weather.
Yeah, it's been so warm. It is like I'm still not over it.
So just get your winter jackets out, your mittens, your gloves, hats, take some precautions, as we always do as Wisconsinites, and we'll be just fine. Coming up in this hour, a little what's worse for you. How was your midweek holiday yesterday? I know not everyone was off, but a lot of people were. What do you think of midweek holidays? How does that compare with? We'll tell you in a few minutes. Invite your phone calls as well. Going to talk about norovirus, how you can take precautions. You do not want this stuff. I've not had it, thank goodness. Knock on wood. but you don't want it. Also finish up our discussion a little bit more on House Speaker Mike Johnson faces a tough re-election battle tomorrow in the House, how that could implicate certifying Donald Trump's election on January 6th. But first of all, a couple of breaking news headlines across the state of Wisconsin for you at this hour. According to channel3000.com on the CBS affiliate here in Madison, a kindergartner died this morning after an accident involving a bus at Silver Springs Intermediate School in Sussex. This is important. This is particularly important for our listeners of WAUK in Waukesha County. In a letter to families, Hamilton School District Superintendent Paul Milkey said that the 4K student was at SSI to get on a shuttle bus bound for Willow Springs Learning Center. The district would not share further information on the tragedy out of respect for the child's family. Again, and a note to this, Waukesha County Sheriff's officials saying there is no active threat to the school or the surrounding area, and they will update this throughout the day. Civic Media News will bring you more as it becomes available. And here in Dane County, the Wisconsin Election Commission voted this morning to investigate the Madison City Clerk's office after 193 unprocessed ballots, absentee ballots, were found during a post-election audit process. The commission, made up of 6 members appointed by both Democrats and Republicans, voted across party lines to go ahead with the investigation. They argued a lack of transparency from the Madison clerk required the commission to dig into the process. Those are the headlines we're following at this hour. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Again, big election tomorrow, House of Representatives. Mike Johnson trying to hang on to that speaker's gavel. And the problem is, or the challenge is, if they don't elect someone by January 6th, it is going to cause chaos because there's never been a situation to date where there has not been a speaker seated by January 6th. And according to House rules, they cannot do official business, of which certifying the election is, without a speaker. The House can't conduct any official business, as we said, without a speaker, which means there are no clear options to certify Trump's win without one, according to multiple sources. Republicans are also acutely aware that they will have a narrow window to push through their agenda once they take control of both chambers of Congress and the White House. Trump's inauguration is set to take place on January 20th, but the election results need to be certified by Congress before he can take office. So lots of backroom deal-making here with Trump appointing some members of Congress, others not able to be there. There's the one woman who's in a memory care facility on the Republican side, can't be there. The open seats created by Matt Gaetz resigning. It's left Mike Johnson with just a 1 or 2 vote majority, basically. It leaves him with little room for error. If every House lawmaker shows up and votes, he cannot afford to lose more than 1 member of his conference to win the gavel, according to CNN. And one Republican lawmaker has already said he will not vote for Johnson. Johnson told Fox News on Thursday night, or this morning rather, that he's been in talks with every single one of his House Freedom Caucus detractors and promised those with concerns process reforms, acknowledging that it is, quote unquote, a numbers game and a historically slim margin. Johnson said we cannot afford any palace drama here. We have to get the Congress seated, unquote. Many feel confident that Johnson will eventually land the votes, especially after Trump's endorsement and given that no other Republicans are jockeying to run against Johnson. Trump told reporters on Tuesday night that he would make calls on Johnson's behalf to fellow Republicans if necessary, but he believed Johnson, quote, would get a successful vote, unquote. 855-752-4842. What do you think of this? Is Johnson going to be elected or seated as speaker? Will there be a speaker by January 6th? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Let's go down to Stoughton here in Dane County, listening on WMDX. CJ in Stoughton. CJ, Happy New Year. What say you?
Happy New Year, Todd. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I think he will retain speakership. But, you were talking last hour about newscasts and truthful and honest journalism. I enjoy your, I guess, analysis, but it seems to be somewhat, I guess you pick and choose which one you want to pick and choose, because George Stephanopoulos just was required to pay $15 million to the Trump library and ABC because he lied. We listened to newscasters all over the country, and the Trump organization, the campaign, is going to sue many of them for the lies that they perpetrated prior with the Russian gate. Adam Schiff should be prosecuted, but he's free to say what he wants on the floor of Congress. And he gets a promotion because it was a $25 million lie that he perpetrated all over, including people like Paul Ryan from Wisconsin believing the Russian gate crap.
All right. I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted to make sure you had your piece to get out your feeling on that. I would offer.
I hope we can have a conversation.
Yeah, I would offer that your take that it's a little apples versus oranges here, because what Fox was reporting yesterday was completely false. There was no evidence. There was no legit reporting. There was nothing coming out of any source saying that this alleged attacker in New Orleans was quote unquote illegal or had been in Mexico. It was all fabricated by Fox News. And remember that Fox News organization, under oath in federal court, admitted that they're an entertainment organization and had to pay nearly $1 billion to Dominion Voting Services for perpetuating fraudulent information. That, in my opinion, that's very different than, I don't expect anybody to listen to this show every day, CJ, but we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the show with what happened with ABC and Stephanopoulos. That was a very nuanced thing where Stephanopoulos said in an interview that Donald Trump had, quote unquote, raped E. Jean Carroll, unquote, and that the judgment was for that he had been found liable for sexual assault. That judge later said that a layperson would understand that and would be accurate to say that it was rape, but that the technical legal opinion was liable for sexual assault. I believe that had Stephanopoulos and ABC actually gone to court, they would have won that. Stephanopoulos, under pressure from Disney, decided to settle out of court and do what you said. You're accurate with what you said about that. They ended up paying, what was it, $15 million to Trump's foundation and ABC or whatever it was. They paid that money to settle out of court. I believe that was because they want access, ABC does, in the new White House, and that was a way to basically make Trump look good and pay their penance, so to speak. I thought it was the wrong thing to do.
Well, I think there's a difference between journalism and pundits. And yes, many of the pundits on Fox, and they should have paid a fine to Dominion. But the mere fact that newscasters perpetrated the lies for 2.5 years you can't just say Fox News is the only one that does it. They're number one because they usually have both sides of an issue debating an issue. You don't see that on some of the other news networks. And that's why I watch Brett Baer Special Report, where he's a journalist. You can't tell which side of the aisle he's on.
I think of all the Fox
of everything.
I think of all the Fox hosts out there, I think that Bear is probably the most fair. I don't agree with him certainly all the time. I don't agree with a lot of people all the time. I've said before in this program, the two places that I think Fox News has credibility is in their polling. That's been shown to be accurate. And number two, on their election night calls. Because Murdoch, for whatever reason, has decided to spin off the polling and the decision desk away from the entertainment group of the rest of Fox. But I appreciate your call, CJ. Appreciate your opinion. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Let's go to Mark in Perdisac. Mark, about a minute left. What do you say?
Whenever you make the distinction between, that for this, on the whole, Trump was found liable of sexual assault in this case, with Eugene Carroll, and with the amount of smoke that's been generated over Donald Trump over the years that he has been continually getting away with this, that is just defending the indefensible. I mean, that splitting hairs over this, and ABC didn't do the right thing in settling that lawsuit, period. I mean, they should have just taken it to court, and the layperson would because we all know women who have been subjected to that kind of sexual assault, whether they want to admit it or not. And I mean that.
Agree, Mark. I'm against the clock, Mark, but yes, absolutely agree. Come on back, little what's worse for you. Your chance to weigh in on the lighter side of the news right here on Civic Media's Radio Network.
News and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone. I went through it a while back. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV.
Could be.
Is it for real?
Maybe
The
I should
key
start taking
ingredient is something called
testosterone, and we'll do updates on the show and see what makes
total
any difference.
testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again.
Oh,
At work, in
20s.
the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text. Text BEAT to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text BEAT to 42424. That's BEAT to 42424.
Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
Happy New Year, Jeff Perry.
Age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly,
Will you fund it?
leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avastin-capted Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active
30
swelling
seconds.
in or around your eye. Izervay can cause
to midnight, 1 minute to go, 1 minute to say goodbye before we say hello.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show, the Civic Media Radio Network. What did you dial up there, Simon?
Let's Start the New Year Right by Bing Crosby from the Holiday Inn soundtrack.
Listen, I've never heard this song. Let's listen.
The light, let's begin. Kissing the old year out, kissing the new year in. Let's watch the old year die with a fond goodbye and our hopes as high as a kite. How can our love go wrong if we start the new year right?
Nicely done, Mrs. Roberts. Start the New Year Right by Bing Crosby. I bet you our friend Jeff Perry has heard it because he's a music aficionado.
He probably has.
And speaking of starting the New Year right, at least here in the Madison station, there was an advertisement for testosterone. And Perry says during the break on Facebook, what does he say here? It says, and
you joked that you should start taking testosterone and then update every day on, what the effects are.
Right. I could take it on the show and then report, do I feel any different? And Perry says, I'm on board with the testosterone segment, Todd. I think we got something here. But the problem is if it didn't do anything for me, then people wouldn't like that.
Well, but you still learn something.
But you don't want,
Our focus group likes it, a.k.a. Jeff Perry.
Our focus group, yeah. All right, so there you go. Ways to start the new year right. Take some testosterone supplement.
Not regulated by the FDA.
Please don't try this at home. Okay, what else we got there on the text line? Anything else here? Yeah, I guess, just some comments from Dana Lacrosse. We appreciate that. Yes, by the way, the flags are going to be at half-mast on Inauguration Day out of respect for Jimmy Carter, who will be laid, former President Carter, laid to rest on Thursday of this week. So we'll bring you highlights from that if it doesn't happen during the show. It may be one of the few or last times that all living presidents are together. Living, that Jimmy Carter is gone, it is former and incoming President Trump, current, soon-to-be former President Biden, former President Obama, former President Bush, W. Bush, and former President Clinton. All five are expected to be at the event. Perry says every testosterone segment could be introduced with a Bing Crosby song. I heard that he didn't need it. I heard that Crosby was a ladies' man. That was kind of the rumor around Hollywood.
He
was suave and debonair, and with a voice like that and a pipe.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, you realize that Bing Crosby was like the Taylor Swift of the 50s. He was the biggest thing out there. Recording, television, were the pioneers of television, live acts as well. And I read this. I don't know why I read this. And Troy in Mount Horeb says, I'm 100% with Jeff. That would be a great segment. Oh, Lord. All right, we'll see. This is true. I did not know this. Bing Crosby died in Spain. He had gone to a recording session, his last recording session in England, and he went across the channel, went to Spain to play golf, and played a round of golf. And the last thing he said was, that was a great round of golf, boys. Let's go have a Coca-Cola. And he got out of his cart, died of a heart attack.
Wow.
I'm serious. That's a true
iconic
story.
Last words, though.
Right? Let's have why Coke hasn't picked up on, well, he died after he said it, but let's have a Coca-Cola, boys. Boom, gone. Bing Crosby. But how great was that? He did a recording session. He was working and played golf, and
seems like a great last day.
Suffering,
or last
just
couple
gone.
Days.
Jeff Perry also says he's on a roll today, by the way. I knew he would know this. Perry says Bing Crosby was one of only a handful of artists to sell over 1 billion units with a B. And think about that for a second. In Bing Crosby's time, there was no internet. There was obviously then, no social media. The only way that they were disseminating his recordings was on vinyl and over terrestrial radio to gin it up. Think 1 billion units without any help from the internet. I don't know. There's really no way to kind of like equate that into current sales, but think about that for a second. You know how somebody says, well, $50 in 1950, then you make account for inflation is $300 today or whatever it is. It'd be interesting to somehow calculate and see what 1 billion units, if there was a way to calculate that in today's terms, it would be the highest sales of all time, I would think.
Certainly up there. I don't know if you can make that calculation just because how media has changed so much. I know we talked about it with Trigby, the shared experience of everybody watching the MASH finale, for example, or everybody listening to Bing Crosby or watching his show. That just doesn't really happen anymore.
Right. All right, let's do this quick before the commercial. Here's what's worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.
All right, once again, for What's Worse. No prize money involved, but your chance to have your voice heard across Wisconsin on our statewide radio network and around the world on the Civic Media app. We'll take your phone calls after the break. What's worse? Midweek, of course, yesterday, Wednesday, January 1st, a lot of people had it off, a holiday. What's worse? A midweek holiday or middle managers? What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842.
No, they're both things that get in the middle of your business and mess you up.
Right, that's true. Not here, of course, we have to say in full disclosure.
The stereotypical
but it could be.
middle manager.
It could be. In some places. Not in some places. What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Chris, listening on WMDX in Madison, middle managers. Middle managers mess things up. Because it's not ill-intentioned, you understand? It's just people, it's just like layers. What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842 to take us to the break. The very wonderful Bing Crosby.
Real news and great
Very
conversation.
potent Bing Crosby.
WMDX. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup
Got
at
separate texts.
civicmedia.us
That's
or the
fantastic.
Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. A big endorsement for the head of Wisconsin's Democratic Party. Ben Wickler is running for chair of the Democratic National Committee. Now he has the support of the highest Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer. Schumer called Wickler a tenacious organizer and proven fundraiser. This month, there are candidate forums for the people vying to run the party's national committee. Those forums will include Wickler and the early frontrunner, the leader of the Democratic Party in Minnesota, Ken Martin. The election is February 1st. And St. Mary's Hospital here in Madison had their first baby of the new year born just minutes after midnight. Jack Davis was born at 12:03 a.m. on New Year's Day. His parents live in the Milwaukee area, and they drove all the way to Madison so they could have the same provider that they did for their first son's birth.
Yeah, you might have
Little
to check
Jack
these
was
on
over
your
a
phone
week
since
early
they're
and
coming
almost
in.
8 pounds and will soon go home to
That's
his
great.
big brother. And when people bite off more than they can chew when it comes to exotic animals, there are only a few places they can surrender them. That makes exotic pet rescues vital for Wisconsin. Here's Lisa Hale.
What happens when someone can no longer care for an exotic pet, like a lizard, a bird, fish, or insect? Traditional shelters aren't equipped to care for them. Releasing them into the wild is dangerous for the animals and for the environment. John Moyles is the director of J&R Aquatic Animal Rescue in Neenah.
You know, like you get a goldfish at the carnival, you don't know what to do with it. And then, if it weren't for us, you wouldn't really have a place to go with that goldfish. And you might think that, dumping it into the lake or a river might be a good option. But those animals can actually thrive in our native waters and then will outcompete native animals by becoming an invasive species.
J&R Aquatic Animal Rescue is the largest exotic pet rescue in Wisconsin. They took in more than 1,900 animals last year. They expect their final number for 2024 to be even higher. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Former President Jimmy Carter passed away this past weekend at the age of 100. Many remember Carter for his decency, endless service to humankind, which included his involvement with Habitat for Humanity. But what most people don't know is that he was also related to Motown Records founder Billy Gordy. Gordy said that in 1978, his sister Esther did some digging into their family tree. Gordy says he was filled with shock and pride when he found out that he and Carter were actually third cousins. There's as much drama off-screen surrounding actress Blake Lively and actor-director Justin Baldoni as there was on-screen for their film It Ends With Us.
I'm going to Google this later, but in case anyone's listening to this stream and knows, and you can text in or comment about it, please let me know if you know this. I have an Android phone, and in the recent calls, I missed one during the show earlier from a number I don't recognize, but some numbers have little green check marks next to them, and I have no idea what that means. I'll Google it later.
I
But
don't-
if anybody knows,
I don't have an
This is your
Android
local
phone, so I don't
Civic
know.
Media radio station.
My iPhone
Wanna
doesn't
hear
do
even
that.
More? Anytime? Find all of it at
but like if it's a confirmed
civicmedia.us.
number or something, it doesn't show up
More
for ones
clouds
I have in
than
my
sunshine
contacts.
today
Like
with
my
high
mom's
temperatures
phone
reaching
number
the
doesn't have a green
mid-20s.
check mark
But
next
with
to it.
winds becoming
But these
feisty out of the
random
northwest,
toll-free
it's
looking
creating wind
numbers do.
chills. And
They're
feeling
scams. They're all
sub-zero
scams.
by
Don't
tomorrow
open
morning.
things you don't
We
know where
do
they
have a bright
came from.
and beautiful day on tap.
That's my
with
advice
highs in the
to you.
teens
That's why
and
I don't
feeling
answer
more
those
like the
calls.
single
Also because I
digits.
was,
I'm meteorologist
working on a
Anna
live show.
Lowe.
But
It's 26 degrees
that
at
as
our
well.
studios.
Listen to the John and Gordy Show weekdays right here on WMDX, sponsored by Verlo Mattress. Sleep better, dream bigger on a handcrafted, locally made mattress. Find them on Madison's East and West Side or online at verlo.com.
The John and Gordy Show.
Well, Bob Woodward, ever since All the President's Men, along with Carl Bernstein, they basically blew the cover off of the Watergate scandal.
That's right, with Deep Throat.
And that's a great movie, by the way.
Deep Throat? I saw that.
No, I meant All the President's Men, but thank you for that. All right.
And the Lovelace was a great performer.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7
That's a really funny
WMDX.
promo.
They do
and
have some
Civic
good
Media
ones.
app.
30 seconds.
All right, listen to your favorite local.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour of 1 o'clock on January 2nd, 2025. Nicely done, Zombers. Stuck in the middle. We're right in the middle of our What's Worse for today. What's worse? Midweek holidays, like yesterday's January 1st, New Year's Day, or middle managers. What's worse? Midweek holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Or you can text us on the Civic Media app. Don't have it? Now's a perfect time to download it. It's free. Won't cost you a dime. Cero, nada, not a thing. Simply go to your Android or Apple device. Go to your app store. Type in Civic, C-I-V-I-C, Media. It'll pop up, little CM logo. Click on it. Takes less than a minute. As we say, it's free. And then open it up. The first 11 stations are where you will find Zommers and I every day, noon until 2, Monday through Friday. You'll see, so click on any one of those. Then you'll see a little text icon. You click on that, write your message, make it nice, and hit send. So what's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? Todd, listening in Oshkosh, WISS, middle managers. Wow. LOL.
Now, I want to put it out there.
He's not a middle
station
manager.
manager is very different from a middle manager. Like, you are a manager, not a middle manager.
Right. As we said, this is not particular to our own company, just in general. And I don't write these. Midweek holidays or middle managers. What's worse? Llama from WMDX in Madison says, as a middle management, that hurts. Look, I've been middle management. At LL Bean, I was a middle manager. WISS, Jim in Appleton says middle managers, without a doubt. Sherry, listening on WAUK from Horicon. Sherry says, a midweek holiday. I forgot my Discover payment because days are off. Now, see, that's a great... I was home.
It messes you up.
Yep. Mom was trying to think of payments, and she was like, So there you go. There's a vote for midweek holidays. We're asking, what's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? Dave in New Berlin, middle managers. Matt, listening on WMDX in Middleton. Middle managers, of course, often unnecessary and should be interviewed by the fools in the Trump Doge department. A very partisan take. Now, see, there's a good example. What do we need Musk and Ramaswamy as billionaires, or at least Musk is, as middle managers for the Department of Efficiency? That ain't going to work. So I agree with Matt on that. Sherry and Horcon said I had to pay extra. Oh, geez. Don't you hate that when you forget a bill and then you got to pay a fee?
Yeah, the fees. Yeah, auto pay is very convenient.
Yeah, I know. What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? Listening on WMDX, AJ and Madison says, talk about the flu. We're going to get, is it the flu? Is norovirus a flu?
It is not, but there's also the whole bird flu thing going on. So it could be either of those.
All right. I have not gotten the bird flu, but I have had someone give me the bird. So there's that. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week, which is only tomorrow. What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842. Mike, listening in Madison. Mike, what's worse?
That question, it's like, what's worse, a bee sting or being shot? I can't see how any.
You don't like either one.
How anybody would. I mean, obviously, I don't care if it's the middle of the week. I'll take a holiday any day of the week before a middle manager. Yeah. I'll take the holiday, brother.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate your listenership. Mike and Madison, 855-752-4842. What's worse, holidays or middle managers? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. As I said, I myself was a middle manager of LL Bean. I was just a man. I was the middle manager that oversaw, the training for our new hires, but I had to report to the assistant manager, then the main store manager. So I've been it's not an easy place to be.
I think it really depends on the company.
Yes.
If it's a company that is growing and needs more people to oversee people, like one person cannot be at LL Bean seeing everything that happens 24 hours a day because there's too much. So you need middle management.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something.
The problem is that a lot of companies have people who they don't want to fire but aren't doing good at their jobs, and so they promote them up out of their bad role.
There you go.
And they become middle managers who just go there to poke around and tell people what to do when they don't know what they're doing. And that's
there you go.
That's where it's bad.
I think you've landed on something, Summers. 855-752-4842. What's worse, midweek holidays like yesterday or middle managers? You can also text into the show via the Civic Media app. You can download it for free at Civic. Go to your app store on Apple or Android. All right, AJ, listening in Madison on WMDX. Going to talk about health. And you can still call or text on what's worse as well. Now, this is news you can use. All right. According to the Associated Press, cases of a wretched stomach bug are surging in parts of the United States this winter, according to government data. The most recent numbers from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show there were 91 outbreaks of norovirus during the week of December 5th, up from 69 outbreaks the last week of November, and has only risen since then. Numbers over the past few years show a maximum of 65 outbreaks reported during the first week of December. A norovirus infection. Here's how you know you're dealing with a norovirus. Didn't I have that in my computer for a while? Wasn't there a norovirus app? Or is that Norton? Isn't that Norton? I'm not sure.
And Norton antivirus and norovirus.
Two different things.
Yeah.
All right. A norovirus infection is characterized by sudden vomiting and diarrhea. And look, as Joe Biden says, I'm not joking around. I'm not kidding around. Why am I laughing? Because, you see, I laugh about it, and then sure as enough, I'm going to come down with this. And I've talked to a couple of people that have had this, by the way. Not fun at all, because you get it coming out both ends.
Yeah.
And then what do?
You get dehydrated so fast. In the past, when people got norovirus, they just died.
Good God.
Because
we don't want that.
Now you can stay hydrated and you can go to the hospital. If you got to go to the hospital, then go. They'll get you fluids. One person I know who had norovirus went in and she had to get 4 bags of fluids via IV.
Good gosh.
She was
And
not
but see,
doing
now
great.
if you go to the clinic or the urgent care, now they got the CVS going around or RVS, whatever, whatever it's called.
RSV.
RSV, that's it. Yeah. If you get the RSV, you might have to go to CVS. And if they don't have what you want, you're going to be SOL.
And also, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not like, you're going to get sick and die.
Right.
I'm just saying,
Right.
make sure
It's
if you
serious
got it
stuff.
coming out of both
And
ends.
despite Todd, it is serious stuff.
Yes, take care of yourself.
Right. So neurovirus infection is characterized by sudden vomiting or diarrhea. Outbreaks are often seen on cruise ships, in congregate living situations like nursing homes and jails, as well as schools and places where people are close together. And see, here's the problem. We've all gone to see the grandparents or the family. We've gone to office parties and whatnot. We've been exposed. You understand? We've been exposed, and that's where this stuff breaks out. So here are a few things to know about the norovirus. What is it? It is the leading cause of foodborne illnesses in the United States, responsible for 58% of such infections acquired in the country each year, according to the CDC. I know this from having worked in the restaurant industry. And this is, people say, oh, I went somewhere and got food poisoning. It might not have been the food was ill prepared. It might have been, speaking of middle management or whatever, you've got people in the restaurant industry that are saying, hey, we're short-staffed. You have to come in whether you're sick or not, or you're going to lose your job. So then people come in and they're sick and they cough or sneeze or forget to wash their hands, and that gets into your food, and boom, you're sick. All right. Norovirus infections are caused by a group of viruses that spread easily with as few as 10 viral particles having the ability to make someone sick, according to health experts. There are about 2,500 norovirus outbreaks reported annually in the U.S. The outbreaks can occur throughout the year, but are most common from now through April. Along with vomiting and diarrhea, common symptoms include nausea, stomach pain, body ache, headache, and a fever. So how do you get it? And this is important. More norovirus outbreaks occur when people are already infected, spread the virus to others by direct means, such as through sharing of food or eating utensils. Outbreaks can also be spread through food, water, or on contaminated surfaces. So number one, this time of year, don't say, oh, can I have a sip of your bubble tea? That's just not a good idea, right? I guess unless you're a partner with someone, you're kissing them anyway.
I was going to say, if
right.
you're already going to get whatever they got.
Right. But you just don't share utensils, don't eat each other's food. And here's the big thing, right, is people will cough or sneeze, and then they touch a doorknob. So, wash your hands this time of year, especially if you're out in public before. And here's the thing that makes people sick a lot. They don't realize. Try to be conscious of this. It'll drive you nuts. Think about how many times we touch our face every day. Like we itch our eyes or we scratch our face or our mouth or whatever, or rub our nose.
I just did a little bit ago, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? We're just talking about not doing this.
Because you're touching a surface that's public, and then you do that, and that's how a lot of this gets spread. So especially if you're out in public, whether you're shopping or whatever, and you're touching doorknobs this time of year, wash your hands or have sanitizer with you before, as soon as you get done with it. That's one way to stop this. The illness is caused by norovirus. It starts suddenly with symptoms developing 12 to 48 hours following exposure to the virus. Most people get better within 1 to 3 days and recover fully. But with 19 to 21 million illnesses each year in the U.S., norovirus nevertheless causes an average of 900 deaths and 109,000 hospitalizations annually, mostly among adults aged, you guessed it, 65 and older. It also leads to 465,000 emergency room visits, mostly involving young children. So, all people are susceptible. Young children, senior citizens with weakened immune systems are most at risk. As Zomer said, dehydration. You don't want to get dehydrated with all the vomiting and diarrhea. There is no medication to treat norovirus. Rehydration is recommended by drinking water and other fluids, with the exception of coffee, tea, and alcohol.
Yeah, you don't want stuff that's going to make you, excrete even more.
Right. So how can you protect yourself? As we said, rigorous and frequent hand washing is the best defense against norovirus during the peak winter season. Scrubbing the hands with soap and warm water for 20 seconds before meals, and scrubbing surfaces with household disinfectant could also help. Back when I worked in the restaurant industry, we were always taught, I went through the food safety class. In fact, I scored so high, Mr. Zommers. I don't brag about myself often. I scored a 94 on the test, which I'm qualified to teach it. So the way
Excellent.
they always taught us, not as good as not as good as a surgeon, but in the food industry, you go to the sink, the hand sink, and put soap on, and then wash the front and then the back, and basically 2 rounds of ABCs. So A B C D E F G H I J K L L P, and go through it twice, and then rinse. And you want to get run the nails and between the fingers and all that. So
maybe a little up the wrist.
A little up the wrist, yeah. Nothing to, and again, people with weakened immune systems, particularly the young and the elderly, are very susceptible. So we're joking around a little bit about it, but it is serious business. And that's why the best thing you can do this time of year is wash your hands. Or if you don't have access to a sink, the second best thing is, don't get the cheap off-brand stuff from wherever. buy like legit Perel or hand wash or sanitizer.
Germex, I think, is another good one.
Yeah, exactly.
That might also be Purell. I'm not sure.
So take care of yourselves, folks. That's the big takeaway here. Come on back. We'll wrap up the show after this. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX.
Toast the
bread John and Gordy Show.
For your peanut butter and pickles
ever since All the President's Men.
Okay.
Bernstein.
You know what, Dave?
Basically blew the
Might make myself one of those later. See if it's good.
Yeah.
Toast some bread.
Movie, by the way.
But it just so, Dave, do you have a recipe? Is it just toast with peanut butter and pickles? Is there a certain ratio to achieve?
All right.
Brenda Lovelace. A great performer.
Weekday morning, 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Matt Nair on air. This shouldn't be a thing.
Hot Dr. Pepper is the hottest holiday drink, but is it any good?
Jane, I'd like to answer that question.
Yes.
No. Have you ever had a hot soda in your life?
Yes, they're terrible. You can also do apparently 80% eggnog and 20% Dr. Pepper.
Get out of my country.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays at 11 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs?
New
in
York
one
Times
hand while
cooking
hopping on
recipe
one foot? Or
for
maybe
peanut
juggling
butter
cats
and
while
pickle
riding a
sandwich.
unicycle?
Yes.
Sounds ridiculous, right? But
Is
guess what? That's
ingredients
exactly what
are
texting while driving is like.
once
Your human brain
2 slices
only
of your
has the
favorite bread,
capacity to focus on
unsalted
one
butter
thing
if
at a
desired,
time.
peanut butter,
So when you're
and
behind
pickles.
the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
There you go.
Although step 1, to bump up the decadence level, you can toast the bread before proceeding. So yeah, Dave's right.
Dave's right.
And then spread peanut butter on both slices of bread. Put an overlapping row of pickles on one slice. Cover with the other slice and consume.
Now that,
Wherever you listen
where did
to
this come from?
podcasts, including Spotify,
Is this
Apple,
a random
and
thought
Google
from Dave? I mean, it's fine if it
And we're
was.
always streaming on
I guess
TuneIn
so.
And
Yeah.
the Civic Media
Well, Dave,
app.
thanks for the tip.
Thank you, Dave.
Out here in the middle of these acres,
I've never had
it can
peanut
feel like you're
butter and pickles together.
Me either.
To each their own. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, we will have some CBS News or ABC News for you, depending upon which of our great stations across the Civic Media statewide radio network that you're listening to, or around the world on the Civic Media app. And then some sports. Mike Clemens. We didn't really get a chance to, we had a lot going on today. Lots going on in sports. In fact, the Sugar Bowl, which was delayed appropriately last night by the terrorist attack in New Orleans, it's going to be played about an hour from now at 3 o'clock on ESPN. It'll be Georgia taking on Notre Dame, which of course seems secondary to all the tragedy going on in New Orleans right now, but that game will be played. Packers, big game against the Bears this weekend. Mike Clemens has been updating us on that. Jair Alexander appears out for the season after getting some knee surgery. They're saying he could come back for the Super Bowl if the Packers got that far. But, boy, I'm not sure they're going to make it that far.
It'll be interesting to watch.
It'll be very interesting to watch. And Mike Clemens, of course, has all the details on that. For us, of course, beating the Bears is a little bit like Ohio State beating Michigan. If you beat the Bears, the season is a success. You
It's also like if you beat the Bears, the season is a success. If you don't beat the Bears, you need to go home and rethink your life.
Right. People take it very seriously. And then coming up after the news, weather and sports update, it is the Maggie Dawn Show, of course, every afternoon with Maggie Dawn from 2 until 4, followed by the Dom Salvia Show. Pete Schwab up there at the great station, WGBW in Green Bay with Nightlight. I listened to some of the show over the weekend or over the holiday. It's just a great program. He and Conrad do a great job. It's always great conversation and interesting guests. Give it a listen. If you're not in the Green Bay area, you can hear it, of course, on the Civic Media app via all of our talk stations and, of course, on WGBW, the talk of Green Bay, as they say up there in Green Bay.
You know what tomorrow is, Todd?
What's tomorrow?
January 3rd. But no, you know what tomorrow is? It is the 1-year anniversary of Matt and Air on Air.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I heard that right before we went on. So congratulations early to our friend Jay Matnair and Greg Bach and Kelvin doing a great job down there. And yes, we should, see if I'd known in advance, I would have got her a gift. But now I guess I could Amazon something if it's overnight.
You could go and buy something and drive it over there.
Driving to Racine, Kenosha tonight. Maybe.
That would be a lot.
Or maybe I'll just wait until I see her next time. And
that's probably the best move.
We'll celebrate with a bottle of something.
Maybe we can 3D print her another Jabba the Hutt with Elon Musk's face.
Right.
They have one, but you can't have too many.
But in all seriousness, congratulations to the 1-year anniversary of Matt Nair on air yesterday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Pardon me. A couple more texts coming in. Our what's worse question of the day. What's worse, midweek holidays or middle managers? Catching up here. Who is this in WMDX? I believe it is AJ in Madison says, I would say middle management, and I think they like when I'm more or less in charge, even though we like our bosses. You can learn how to manage up and live with middle managers. Middle of the week just messes up a good holiday. All right, that's Jeff in Madison saying that one. I split the comments there. Sorry about that, AJ and Jeff, but I appreciate you listening and texting in. Dana in La Crosse says, I just had 8 days off for vacation and happened to catch the crud, speaking of the norovirus, while I was on vacation. Today is my first day back to work after the holiday, feeling pretty terrible, but I have to come in. Otherwise, I'll lose all of my holiday pay. Oh, my gosh, Dana. I'm sorry to hear that. It's no fun to be sick over the holidays and then have to feel like you got to come back.
Yeah, just keep trucking.
A random thought of consciousness from David Berlin, New Berlin. He says, Todd, be certain to toast the bread for your peanut butter and pickle sandwiches. It matters. Let the bread cool as not to melt the peanut butter. There's some cooking advice there. Also, what do we got here? He says, I love texting my random thoughts.
Yes, and Jeff Perry commented on Facebook, hearing us read about this peanut butter and pickle situation over the break. He says, a peanut butter and pickle might cause me to have many of those virus symptoms.
Yes, for me as well, Perry. I think that Jerry Perry. I think that's right. Here, Jeff Perry and I both enjoy the Brewers. Here's some news to end the show on. FanDuel Sports Network will broadcast Brewers games in 2025 for television. FanDuel Sports Network will continue its partnership with the Milwaukee Brewers to broadcast games in 2025. As it was announced, you might have missed it, it was on New Year's Eve they announced this. Quote, the media landscape is complex and evolving rapidly, but our top priority is to ensure the Brewers games are available to fans regardless of where they live and how to connect them to the broadcast, unquote, according to the Brewers president of business operations, Rick Schlesinger. This comes after Bally Sports was rebranded as FanDuel Sports after the Diamond Sports went Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings earlier this year. So it appears now, see, isn't this interesting how all this bankruptcy stuff, it appears now basically it's all the same people doing it just under a different name.
Yeah, pretty much. Bankruptcy is a weird animal.
Yeah. So, the good news is I don't know. This was all the weird stuff. Because Bally Sports was only on Spectrum and you couldn't watch it if you have YouTube TV. So there's no details here whether FanDuel Sports will be more widely available for television. But I'll tell you right now, the best way to take in your Milwaukee Brewers baseball right here on Civic Media. As many of our stations, including Richland Center, WRCE, carry the Milwaukee Brewers every year, a couple other stations along the way. And Bob Uecker set to be back on some of those games at home. Jeff Levering, what a great crew. So you can listen to the games right here on the Milwaukee Brewers Radio Network all season long. Pitchers and catchers report next month. Think about that, Zombers. Now that we're in January, pitchers and catchers reporting next month. So exciting news. A good upbeat story to end the show on. Great show today. Appreciate you all being here. Thanks to Zombers. Thanks to all of you for weighing in, calling in, and participating. Always enjoy everyone being with us. Tomorrow, our friend Peter Rapine from EPOM's World pops in with a humorous look at the week in review. Take your phone calls as well. For all of us here at the show, and to all of you, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. We'll see you tomorrow.
Banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
All right, everybody. Adios. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Make sure you toast the bread for your peanut butter and pickle sandwiches.
And take testosterone.
This statement is not endorsed by the FDA.
All right. Adios.
Please consult your doctor before taking hormones. All right. Goodbye.